Hello there, and welcome to episode 252 of the FlameFlash.net podcast. I'm yours truly, FlameFlash, and it's been a couple of weeks, two exactly, since we last recorded. Things have been busy. Life has been busy, as I'm sure everyone well knows. Um, Gaming wise, there's been a little bit of World of Warcraft, a little bit of Helldivers 2, a little bit of Civ, more Detroit Become Human, and Magic the Gathering. So Kudini, for example, had a birthday near the end of July, and I got for him a commander deck. And he just recently was able to get it sleeved and um, start experimenting with it and playing with it and learning it. And off he goes. So he'd only been playing with Little Miss so far, and using his other deck or her could kind of raffle stomp with some flying Pegasus, an army of flying Pegasus brought in with a sorcery card, and just kaplow, got him. Um, but in a kitchen table format, group play, he's starting to learn the game more, learn the deck more. It's like, oh, this is actually pretty good. This is pretty strong. There's a particular Liberty power armor artifact creature that especially does the heavy lifting. So be it. Ramp that up, beef that up, and it's going to just raffle stomp everyone. It's rather difficult to get around, especially as you put things like hexproof boots on it, that sort of thing. So, yeah, it is a force to be reckoned with. So, I look, the whole family is now going through a stint of just, we are interested in Magic the Gathering, which I think is really cool. And Mordecai has joined us in playing some, and it's just been very it was some very satisfying games. That's what we heavily did yesterday, Sunday. And I have to burn some vacation time before the school year starts, so I did. And that's why I'm able to record in the afternoon at from home for once instead. One of the kids had an appointment this morning and got some other things done. Chilled. Um, the Thunderer has been creating some neat uh, zodiac colored bracelets or zodiac themed bracelets and handed off to have me show off on the video version of the podcast real quick. Thank you, child. Because Little Miss is preparing to move into their first apartment solo with Kudini and was cleaning, found those beads, correct? And gave them to you? Yep. So that's pretty darn cool. Otherwise, as is usual, home life is going pretty darn smoothly, pretty darn well. It's the rest of the world that is kind of on fire at the moment, frustratingly so. So, for example, and we can just kind of transition over. Hellcat was able to join us for a good portion of the weekend as well, and fits right in with everyone. It's absolutely incredible. Got quite lucky there. And in the background, I might be playing a little Civ as well because I wanted the computer ready to go because I actually have some commentary and some feedback from somebody. Not technically um, podcast feedback per se, but it's still valid feedback slash criticism that seemed like a good thing to do, to use for cannon fodder for the podcast itself. So I posted this meme, reposted this meme on Facebook the other day. And for those listening, it reads out, Republicans want to tell you what books you can read, what meds you can take, what words you can say, what history you can learn, what you can do with your uterus, what gender you are, and who you can love. But tell me more about how the Democrats are coming for your freedoms. And his feedback, KR, if you happen to be stopping by to listen, bud, one of the reasons why I still have you on my Facebook friends list is because of how huge I know your heart is. How absolutely huge it is. Oh, what's funny is that it's not even showing up on the screen itself. But I know how big your heart is. I have seen how big your heart is. And I feel like you're so close to understanding. This isn't a partisan issue because that's his feedback. Seems to me you're still partisan and with the government. I'm definitely not with the government. If you've been listening for a while or watching my podcast or even watching my Facebook posts, his argument is, I guess you haven't learned that both parties are two cheeks on the same butt. Here's the thing about that. If it's two cheeks on the same butt, they definitely need to see a doctor because one of them is this ginormous oblong thing getting in the way of everybody doing anything, and then the other is flat. Now, back in the day, I could see the validity of arguing, oh, well, you're being too partisan. You're being too one side versus the other. And he says, I didn't see any of your posts on Facebook against Biden. I got to nap during Biden. Nothing happened. An infrastructure bill and then egg collusion food prices and gas prices that slowly the inflation rates, if you actually look at the real data, started coming under control based on the massive problem that was inherited from the Trump administration version 1.0. So trying to say that I'm somehow partisan for not blindly being angry with quote unquote the establishment. It just it misses the point, bud. One side projects and tries to fearmonger. If you look at the Republican Party in Texas, has been running Texas for the last I don't know how many years. And yet, when they go for reelection and go up for reelection, they start talking about how they need to be kept in power to fix Texas. It's like, or to get put in power to fix Texas. They don't really talk about the fact that they've been in power this whole time. But guys, open your eyes. You can be partisan, quote unquote, and look at the data and the reality of the situation and go, they are not the same. Now, back in the day, and as is still the case, there are politicians on both sides that decide, I want to line my own pockets. I am going to go and do things for myself, and maybe Jim Bob or Joe or Sally, common person, is going to benefit slightly. Except right now, the difference of who does it versus who doesn't do that, there's a chasm between the two parties in which one doesn't look out for the common person and the one that does. Are all Democrats created equal? Is the no? Are all of the is the two-party system broken as heck in the United States? Yes, but as we saw in these primaries, there are regions and subgroups attempting to fix this. So trying to say yet again that all politicians are the same, if you don't rail against one, or that you need to rail against all of them or some such, it doesn't even really make sense to me. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense. It breaks my logic circuits. One party supports and protects a child predator, a felon, and an individual who is very, very clearly doing market manipulation things and insider trading, and even admits to it because there's no repercussions. And then there's the other guys who aren't in power, who don't have enough ability due to how the system is set up to get in there and actually fix anything. And when they are in power and try to fix something, suddenly the party that is right now driving up the largest amount of government debt in the history of this nation starts screaming fiscal responsibility. What is okay for me, but not for thee. And it's that same tired, tired song and dance. Give me a break. They are not the same. Now, KR, you want me to go back and talk about Biden. He got the infrastructure bill through. Otherwise, for the most part, the Republicans whined and moaned and cried and did their best to block anything and everything from going through. After that, they started blaming Biden for gas prices going up, even though Russia launched a war in Ukraine, and food prices going up, even though Russia launched a war in Ukraine. Everything that happened during the Biden administration, the president and the power of the president doesn't have direct control of impacting. There's the major difference. Now, in contrast, the power of the president very much caused gas prices to be back up to nearly $5 a gallon for the war in Iran. You go and you bomb actively an area that produces oil and disrupt the economy and people of the area, and yeah, that's going to be a direct cause effect analysis of gas prices, food prices as well, for shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. And then you have the news about egg collusion, egg makers going, oh yeah, we're all going to get together because of the chicken crisis that occurred. If you don't recall, there was a legitimate illness that went through and caused a need for culling, basically, of chickens. And when that happened, egg prices went up, as would be logical. The problem is the major egg producers then colluded together to keep prices high unnaturally. So again, not a thing that the president has the power to control. So trying to blame Biden on egg prices, if anything, his government had so much other stuff going on, like Israel and Gaza, and trying to convince everybody to go back to peace, that they needed to they couldn't investigate this egg collusion thing. Weird, a phone call. Huh, a phone call. Okay, yeah. So, nicely distracted and taken off of my rant, but you get the point. And that's all there is to it. The reason I returned to podcasting when I did after a nearly 10-year hiatus was because I saw the writing on the wall of everything that was going to go wrong. And I wanted to at least do my best effort. Not that anybody listens. This is more therapeutic for me. Get my voice out there to go, there's a problem, guys. A big problem. And it's coming. And we need to be aware of said big problem. Of course, nobody listened. People were angry about Gaza and voted against Harris. Misogyny voted against Harris. But we would not be where we are economically, war, if Harris had been elected. Should the Biden administration been harsher on Israel regarding the genocide in Gaza? Yeah. But that doesn't change the fact that in KR's point of view, They were therefore the lesser of the two evils. It's not a partisan thing. It's a who are individuals at least attempting to do good, and who are the individuals only out to line their own pockets. It's pretty obvious when you look at it that way. So I am sorry, KR. I just firmly disagree. You're so close, man. You're so close. I'm not going to give up on you yet. You'll get there, I think. I hope. Probably. Probably will. Just have to wait and see. Fingers crossed. I think we can get you there. But that's the way of it. So thank you for the feedback, KR. I mean, it wasn't directly related to the blog, but it's there. What's kind of funny is that I've ranted for a good amount of time and not actually gotten to any news. We got to the personal items, we got to some feedback. So let's jump to actual news. And in the effort of respect for people's time, I'm going to actually turn this into a part 1 and a part 2. So thank you for joining me on this first section of the flameflash.net podcast, episode 252. And we are going to roll into a more news-based version of the podcast in 252 part 2, because it's fun to say the word 2. If you want to stop here, thank you for joining me. I would love to hear from you. Podcast at flameflash.net. Post your comments. Post your feedback. Let's have a conversation about what's going wrong and how we can fix it. Because that's the other thing that they don't seem to understand from the Republican side of the aisle, is that we are being loud not because we hate our country, but because we don't, even though they're going to claim we do. We hate what's happening to our country because we have the capability of doing so much good. And instead we have corrupt people lining their own pockets, looking out for themselves, not caring about their neighbors. So, thank you for joining me. I hope you come back for part 2. And remember, in case you don't, my words are my own, and everyone deserves freedom and autonomy. It is a right of all sentient beings.